Meeting to order, and I appreciate everybody coming out today to our first meeting of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Tourism, Economic Development, Public Protection, and Energy. And we'll call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Representative All.
Here.
Representative Bray.
Present.
Representative Gentry. Representative Hart. Representative Lockett.
Here.
Representative Petrie. Representative Reed. Representative Weber.
Here.
And Chairman Fugit.
Here. Thank you very much for being here today. Before we get started with the presentation, I want to recognize some of my people back home. I have Perry County Judge Executive Scott Alexander and a couple of his magistrates, three of his magistrates, and then our Breathitt County Judge Executive Jeff Noble and the fiscal court there from Breathitt County. I appreciate you all coming and being part of this meeting today. And just don't throw anything at the chairman, please. Anybody else got anybody you want to introduce or anything? All right, we appreciate the folks from Tourism coming, Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet coming today and be presenting on tourism recovery and investment. Before we get started, would you raise your right hand and be sworn, please? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. As you begin your testimony, please identify yourself for the record, and you begin your presentation.
Good afternoon now. I guess it's afternoon. I'm Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Lindy K. Spear. I'm the incoming Secretary of the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. Just transitioning from the Personnel Cabinet over to Tourism, Arts, and Heritage with the retirement of Secretary Mike Berry. It's my privilege today to introduce Mona Jewett, who is our new Chief of Staff at Tourism, Arts, and Heritage, and as you know, Commissioner Mike Manget. Mike is here to report on, as set forth in House Bill 1, report on the funding, and I'm going to turn it over to him at this time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Case-Beer, and thank you, Chairman Fugit, for the invitation to be here today. House Bill 1, which authorized these funds for our industry, also tasked our agency with developing and administering these federal programs, which was a first for our department. For this reason, we've been diligent and very intentional in developing these programs to ensure that the funds will be used appropriately under federal ARPA guidelines and to follow the intent of the legislation. It has been quite the learning experience, and we are keeping a list of lessons learned in the event we ever have the opportunity to administer federal funds in the future. As a reminder, the $75 million that was appropriated was divided into 4 tranches of money. Tranche 1 was $15 million for marketing and promoting tourism in Kentucky. These funds will be used primarily by the Department of Tourism to supplement our existing marketing efforts and to help us develop new geographic and demographic target markets. Tranche 2, $25 million distributed to tourism commissions for marketing communities. This tranche required a 10% match from the local tourism commissions, and uses of the funds shall be similar to the Tourism Marketing Incentive Program, which our agency currently administers. Tranche 3, $25 million distributed to tourism commissions for attracting meetings and conventions. And Tranche 4, $10 million to tourism commissions for multi-jurisdiction collaborative destination marketing. This tranche also required a 10% match from the local tourism commissions, and uses also shall be similar to the TMIP program. This tranche required a tourism commission as a primary grantee and a minimum of 4 additional tourism commission partners. At this point, I'd like to note a few items. The legislation was very specific in that for tranches 2, 3, and 4, the funds are to be distributed to tourism commissions. For tranches 2 and 4, the legislation, as I've already mentioned, also stated that the uses of the funds shall be similar to our existing Tourism Marketing Incentive Program. However, the bill did not provide a definition of a tourism commission, which became our first priority. Working with legal teams from our cabinet and finance, we created the definition you see on the screen, allowing commissions that are formed under KRS 91A or defined as a designated marketing organization or tourism region under our administrative regulations pertaining to the existing TMIP. Why is this important? Because not all counties have tourism commissions. We have a few local chambers of commerce and fiscal courts that have participated in our TMIP program for many years that are not tourism commissions and would not have been eligible for these funds. Since we looked at the intent of the legislation saying that they shall be similar to the existing TMIP program, the uses of the funds, we felt like the eligible organizations should also be similar. So this definition allowed those non-traditional tourism commissions to participate. We also created an emergency administrative regulation outlining the program and providing the cited authority needed for KDT to disperse these funds. While this was going on, we also began working on creating the guidelines and applications for each of these tranches. This process took many weeks as we made sure the programs met ARPA and statutory requirements. Applicants had to show the impact of COVID to their communities and the local tourism economy on each of the applications. We also researched other states around the country to see how they had utilized ARPA funds and to seek advice and counsel on the application process. We created online application forms, specific web pages for each tranche, a continuously updated FAQ matrix for each of the programs, and had ongoing conversations and meetings with tourism industry partners. As you can see from this timeline, we began work as soon as possible. Once the bill was final, we met as quickly as possible to put together a plan of action and work schedule. We filed the first emergency regulation on July 1, then held a training webinar for our industry partners on July 25th, providing an overview of each tranche, discussing who was eligible to apply, the types of expenses that were eligible, ARPA reporting guidelines, application deadlines, etc. We followed our July 25th webinar up with 5 in-person meetings that same week with tourism industry partners around the state to review each tranche in more depth and answer any questions they might have on each program. Now, I don't know if you know a lot of tourism folks, but believe me, they had a lot of questions about this. These meetings were very beneficial for our partners, but also for the KDT team, and allowed us to answer their questions in person and, as importantly, listen to their ideas and concerns. Among their concerns was the time they would need to plan and decide how they would utilize the funding, as well as finding the 10% match required under tranches 2 and 4. Due to the devastating floods in eastern Kentucky, we decided to extend all the application dates by 30 days, and an updated emergency regulation was filed to show the new deadlines. I would now like to walk you through where we stand today for each of the 4 tranches. For Tranche 1, much of these funds have yet to be spent. That is mainly due to our priority of making sure the funds in Tranches 2, 3, and 4 were distributed as quickly as possible. The majority of Tranche 1 funds will eventually be used for media purchases, and we have allocated $1.7 million to supplement our marketing campaign this spring. Funds will also be used for new photography and content creation for our web and social media channels, public relations and earned media efforts, new research to help us make more informed marketing decisions, and in international marketing as examples. With the recent announcement of a new nonstop flight from Northern Kentucky Cincinnati Airport, and I like to say it like that because it is in Northern Kentucky, no matter what folks in Cincinnati like to say, with a new flight to London Heathrow, these funds came at a perfect time for KDT to attract new international visitors to Kentucky. Why do we want international visitors? They stay longer and spend a lot more money. Finally, many of our cabinet agencies, who play a very important role in promoting tourism to Kentucky, are in desperate need of new content and marketing materials. We have allocated $800,000 to a production fund to allow the agencies you see on the screen to develop these new assets, such as commercials, videos, print ads, etc. This slide illustrates our approach to marketing Kentucky as a tourism destination and how we're going to measure our effectiveness. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see the tactic we use: TV, print, social media, etc. To the right are the KPIs, or key performance indicators, that we utilize for the corresponding tactics. Additionally, KDT annually conducts a marketing and advertising awareness and return on investment study. We will utilize these KPIs and this annual study to measure our ROI on the ARPA funds. As a point of reference, we received $5 million in CARES Act funding from the governor's office in 2021. And we use these same KPIs. We measured all those funds independently. That study came back and said, with the $5 million combined with our existing advertising campaign, we achieved a 101-to-1 return in new markets. $101 returned to Kentucky for every dollar we spent. Overall, it was 66-to-1. And I will tell you, when our research company was telling me this, I said, "You mean $6.60? And they said, "No, $66 to 1. and I'm happy to share that study with you. I've had other state travel directors call me and say, how did you do that? And it's because we were very, very intentional on how we went about it, how we measured the effectiveness, and the targeted nature that we use those funds. For Tranche 2, our application window was from August 1st to September 30. We received 94 applications and have distributed $23,447,219 to date. There is currently a balance of $1,552,781 remaining. I would note here, however, that we allowed the DMOs, our tourism partners, tourism commissions, the option of taking their distribution over the course of 2 fiscal years to help offset the impact of the 10% match. Of the remaining funds you see here, $441,113 are committed to these second-year distributions. Our balance left to distribute is a little more than $1 million. It's $1,054,114, if I can remember that off the top of my head. For Tranche 3, the $25 million for meetings and conventions, the application window ran from August 8th to October 7. We received 19 applications and have distributed $23,717,000 with a remaining balance of $1,283,000 remaining. You see on both of these, and you'll see on Tranche 4, that we do plan a second round of applications in Q4 of this fiscal year. Our staff is still working on those plans when we're going to roll that out, and we really want to make sure that anyone who didn't apply or did not receive funding will get first access to these funds. For Tranche 4, the application window was September 12th through November 4th. We received 26 applications and awarded $4.7 million to date. That leaves a balance of $5.3 million. Please keep in mind that this tranche required a minimum of 5 tourism commissions and a 10% match. There was also a line in the legislation that said priority shall be given to projects that could potentially lead to transformational change. I want to thank you for not defining transformational change, because we've had a hard time trying to define that ourselves. But it's been fun to review these. To date, you see listed on the screen just a sampling of the creative projects our industry has come up with for these funds. We did send last week the full list of the awards, and if you have any questions and want more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Before closing, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the staff of the Department of Tourism and the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. We do not have a large staff in the department. When the legislation was passed in April, we had 14 staff members. We immediately tasked 4 of our staff with helping create the applications and guidelines for the programs while also maintaining their existing responsibilities. Other staff members supplied support in a variety of ways, from creating web pages, industry communications, to legal expertise and beyond. I'm very proud of the professionalism and dedication they have shown throughout this experience, and would like to thank them publicly for the phenomenal job that they have done. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, any questions by members? Representative Weber.
Thank you all for being here. I was a strong advocate of allocating the $75 million, and I think that the information you've given here today is good. If you can help me understand a couple of things. I talked to my local tourism office. They received $296,000. Mm-hmm. And then the Paraquet Springs Conference Center, I think, received either $305,000 or $310,000. My mind's not recalling the exact details. Just so I'm clear, can you help me understand where each of these came in relation to the 4 tranches that you have? So I'm clear. I want to.
Sure. Are you talking the Tourism Commission received the 200, and I don't have all the figures right in front of me.
Yes, I was told
sure.
by the director, our local director, they got about $296,000.
Okay, sure.
And then the conference center got another $305,000, $310,000.
Sure. The Tourism Commission would have received that under Tranche 2, which was the $25 million for DMOs. The legislation said that amount would be determined based off of the economic impact generated by the county from our pre-pandemic 2019 economic impact report. So that was pretty much you generated this percent, that's what percentage you received of the funds. Okay. For the convention center, that was Tranche 3, and that was meetings and conventions. That was more of a competitive program We based those applications on the available square footage. We gave maximum grant amounts up to the available square footage for meetings and conventions. They had to supply us a plan for what that would be used. We made sure that the expenses would be eligible, and we gave them some flexibility on that. We understand marketing can change, but that's where, and I think it was 305. Now that you say that, the conference center received.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, could I have a follow-up?
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible for us to get a list of the awards across the state so we can see the amounts? I'd really like to see who took advantage of the program. And as I was telling Secretary Casebeer, who I've known for a very long time, I've long advocated that tourism is our untouched jewel in the state, and we have to invest in tourism because that's how we're going to bring folks into the state. We look at other states. We cite Wisconsin, Alabama, other states. They advertise heavily. They reach regional populations that bring people to their state. We have so much in this state to offer, and we really need to take advantage of it. And I think that's one of the great things about this appropriation was it was that start, and I'm looking forward to I think, and you said the first one was the $15 million invested in outreach and advertising, and I think it'll take more, but there's a good start. I just want to emphasize that. So I'd love to have that information if you could provide that, so we could see kind of across the board who took advantage and where those dollars are going to be utilized.
Sure. We actually sent those lists over last week, so you should have them. Staff should have those.
We have those in the email.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I was ad-libbing and I skipped a line in my testimony that I'd like to remind everybody. To date, we have distributed $51,921,723 dollars of the $60 million allocated to our tourism partners, or 86.5% of the available funds. To do that in about a 10-month span to start the program and get it up and running. And actually, when I say distributed, the checks are in their hands. They're in their bank accounts. It's not in process. That's money that are in their hands. For tranches 2 and 3, the percentage allocated is 94 and 94.8% respectively. So, and as I said earlier, our staff is working on timelines to reopen applications for a second round later this spring. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Representative All, is that right?
Yes, that's right, Representative All. No, just pretend like the U's not there. That's what I tell most people.
All right.
Commissioner, thank you for your service. Thank you for the update. I do have a quick question on Tranche 4. It seemed to be lagging overall in the amount of awards because it's got to be a multi-regional kind of approach with multiple tourism districts. Do you anticipate or find that you're going to maybe have any challenges with being able to award that tranche or bucket of money, given the parameters or defined definitions of how it needs to be awarded?
That's a good question, and thank you for asking it. I think in this initial round there were a lot of unknowns. Unknowns on the part of our tourism partners. How is this going to work? What qualifies? What we saw, and again, we provided you the list of the projects. It really spans the entire state, and some very innovative and creative ideas out there. As far as moving ahead, I would think now that they have that under their belt, there's nothing that stops someone to come back from a project that was awarded and say, we had some success, we'd like some additional funding. I don't think you can underestimate, frankly, though, the impact that the 10% match had on both tranches 2 and 4, where and we had no flexibility in that. The 10% match was mandated in the legislation. So I think you saw some folks saying, I'm going to hold off until next fiscal and maybe I can plan for it a little more in advance. I do know that there are many conversations going on right now across the state with folks trying to come up with ideas for this. And part of the thing that we want to do on the timeline is we want to get this set up in round 2 open sooner rather than later, simply to give them enough time. Keep in mind that all of these funds have to be spent by December 31st of 2024. So we're trying to get them in their hands, get the funds in their hands as quickly as possible so that they can spend them and then start, generating the return that we think will happen. So I've got a little bit of concern, but we're going to monitor that. And we did not fully fund, I think, all of the applications that came in for a variety of reasons, but most of them. So again, we're just gonna have to wait and see, and we'll work with the industry on this. You have to keep in mind too, there's one tourism commission that I think is participating in 5 of these. So it just really depends. A lot of that's going to depend on the local tourism commission if they have the 10% match, and who's going to be the primary grantee and take on the responsibility to report and everything else.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Representative Lockett.
Yes, sir. I just have a quick question. Is there, as you see, not just the applicants, but those awards that were given, are they spread out across the entire state? Do you see that they're kind of concentrated in certain geographic areas? What do you see there?
I would say they are spread pretty well across the state. Keep in mind that Tranche 2 was open we did a percentage for every county, but again, not every county has a tourism commission. So I would say in the eastern part of the state is probably our biggest area of no established tourism commissions. For Tranche 3, it was spread around the state, and Tranche 4 absolutely was spread around the state. When you look at the participating counties that are in all of these, I mean, we have a couple of programs, and I'm not going to be able to recall them off the top of my head right now, but where you have a Hopkinsville participating with Lexington, who in northern Kentucky, and Prestonsburg, right? So it's been really fun for us to see the creativity and how people are pulling that around. And always keep in mind that when you travel as a tourist, you're really not looking at county lines. And I know that's been said many, many times, but we're very blessed in this state, and I can't overstate this, because again, I've had other state travel directors say this to me, that they're amazed that our tourism partners out there, even though at the end of the day they are competitors, they would prefer you to stay in their community and spend your money there as opposed to the next community over. But they understand that tourism really is about working regionally and working together, and our folks like each other. I don't know how else to say it. They work very well together, and so it has been spread across the state. I would certainly like to see, just overall as an industry outside of this funding, more communities who don't have an established tourism commission look into establishing one and funding it fully. It's one thing to have in name a tourism commission, but if it's not fully funded and can do anything, you're not going to see the return on that. That's a long answer to your question.
No, it's great. Thank you.
I think we've been very pleased with how dispersed the funding is.
Good. Thank you.
I think I got a couple questions. Do you know how many tourism commissions there are in East Kentucky?
Not off the top of my head, but I can get you that list.
Is there, and looking over these grant requests that I think Representative Weber was talking about, there's not very many East Kentucky projects on this list. Is that because that no tourism commissions requested money, or were they just not granted money?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Primarily, they did not request.
Okay.
In Tranche 2, if they requested, they received the funds.
Okay.
There was no review of that. There was no. They had to send in an application for eligible expenses, but it was not a competitive situation where we're saying, well, you're not getting it. If they did not receive funds, more than likely they did not apply.
Okay. And then on Tranche 4, multi-jurisdictional monies. So let me back up. I was in a meeting earlier, and I don't remember who said it, but they were talking about how Kentucky did not have the tourism of Tennessee and different states. And that may be true, but I believe that Kentucky has something to offer from north to south, east to west. Different parts of the state obviously offer different things. And East Kentucky, I believe, being from Hazard area of the 84th District, offers a lot of opportunity for scenic trail riding and all that. So with that being said, I don't know if you're familiar exactly with the Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority, which is the ATV trail system spanning 18 counties. Would those 18 counties, where they're all in one group, would they qualify for, could they request money from that Tranche 4 pot of money or do they have to be, I guess, have that tourism commission name, official name, or as part of the Kentucky Regional Recreation Authority, could they request part of that money?
They would have to be, based on the legislation, a tourism commission. And for tranche 4, you need at least 5. You need one who would be the primary grantee, and then at least 5 others. So, and then we look at it. Really theoretically, I would say yes, if you structure it that way. This money cannot be a pass through. It can't go to them and just immediately be given out to another organization. You can't subcontract these funds.
Right.
So it would have to be, and the legislation also says it has to be used for marketing purposes. So
Right.
no administrative costs, things like that.
Right.
I would say theoretically, without seeing a proposal, I would say they could if you had at least 5 of the tourism commissions
So
come
if,
together,
So if the 5
or eligible organizations. Again, not to
Okay.
interrupt you.
So if 5 of the counties that were part of that trail authority came together and used that, they could request that money, but then they'd have to use it all for marketing, obviously,
Correct.
for the trail authority.
Correct, and provide a 10% match.
And I know we're in the beginning stages of the trail authority. Really, we've just been funded since 2000. But I saw a tourism commercial on TV the other day, and it was showing all the different parts of Kentucky, and there really wasn't anything on that commercial that advertised East Kentucky that I saw. And I would just like to say that, I'd like to see us as a state begin to advertise, and maybe it would take a meeting with the Trail Authority so that you understand exactly what we've done. Because as we mark trails and get landowners agreements, they're marking places like rock formation bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Martin County has 30 rock formation bridges over in their county. Excuse me. And that's not been marketed. That's just not been, the story's not been told in East Kentucky. We have hundreds of acres of land where people ride and elk and all that stuff. So I would just like to see that in that marketing statewide commercial to add some things from East Kentucky and from rural parts of Western Kentucky. Let's add all Kentucky in because we do have a lot to offer. And so I think that's all the questions I have or comments I have. Anybody else got any comments for today's meeting? All right. If not, the next meeting will be next Wednesday, February the 15th at 12 o'clock here in 171. And if there's no other business, move for adjournment. And hold up just a second. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
It's my first day on the job. And I thank you all for coming.
You're doing a fine job.
And
Thank you.
presenting today and just giving us an update on where the monies are being spent. And again, I believe in tourism. I believe in Kentucky. And I believe we got a lot to offer for people that's outside to come in and enjoy our state and spend their money. Now, I move for adjournment. All right. Thank you very much.